Hurricane Sandy. Introduction. Narrated by Tim Whitney, District Warden, Past Grand Knight, Council 5561. Hurricane Sandy was the deadliest and most destructive hurricane of the 2012 Atlantic hurricane season. On October 29th, its storm surge hit New York City, flooding streets, tunnels, subway lines, and cutting power in and around the city. Hurricane Sandy brought devastation down on all of the New York City's boroughs, resulting in an incredible scale of damage on Staten Island, leaving entire communities to wonder if life would ever be the same. In the wake of Hurricane Sandy, many began referring to the shore area as Ground Zero. Getting assistance to the area was extremely difficult, streets impassable, and destruction everywhere. For a long period of time, it seemed to the people who lived through the storm as if no one cared or would do anything to help them in their time of need. Volunteer crews and government workers fanned out through the streets and picked through the debris, and snowplows created forlorn monuments to people's personal lives. Piles of mud-splattered furniture, baby cradles, toys, clothing, and personal mementos collected from years of living there. The Knights of Columbus on Staten Island worked tirelessly to assist in so many ways, such as cooking on street corners to feed the people, setting up shelters, assisting at local churches, etc. The need was great, and the Knights heard the call. When our call came from our beloved pastor and chaplain to do something for the unfortunate people on Staten Island, it was viewed as a blessed opportunity for charity, unity, and fraternity for the 270 members of Father Herman J. Vieger, Council number 5561 of Warrenton, Virginia. The following is a case history of our Hurricane Sandy relief effort, Brothers Helping Brothers. Answering the call. It began with a single phone call from a mother to her son, Reverend James R. Gould, pastor, St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church, Warrenton, Virginia. Mom, who lives in Chicago, Illinois, said to her son, "No one's helping out in Staten Island." Father Gould replied, "Mom, I live in Virginia." "No one's helping out in Staten Island," she repeated. "Mom, I live in Virginia," said Father Gould a second time. Mom repeated her statement a third time, and Father Gould finally got the message. On Saturday, November 3rd, Father Gould called Roy Francis, Grand Knight, Father Herman J. Vieger Council, and informed the worthy Grand Knight he would like to get a large truck and fill it up with items and then drive it to Staten Island. At the same time, one of our parishioners told Father she was from Staten Island, and the people at Holy Rosary, her old parish, were in dire need. On Sunday, Father Gould spoke at all the masses and told everyone we were going to have a large truck outside of our church. Father asked people to bring items such as water, food, cleaning products, baby items, hats, cloaks, gloves, etc., etc. Next Monday, November 11th, we'll fill that truck, and I will personally deliver it to Staten Island on Monday, November 12th. Worthy G.K. Roy met with Father Gould Monday morning after Father's Sunday announcement to discuss a plan. Our chaplain asked his knights to handle this effort. So as Grand Knight, Roy assumed the chairmanship of this effort and began to gather volunteers. To our amazement, people began to bring items to our church on Tuesday, November 6th. Unprepared as we were at the time, we began to stack items in our parish office, which filled up in no time at all. One of our first tasks was to locate a truck. Worthy G.K. Roy immediately made an inquiry to Brother Steve Chipman, service manager at a local car dealership, thinking he may know of someone who could loan us a truck at low or no cost. Brother Steve was unaware of any trucks readily available for our task. 2 days later, when Brother Steve went to work, he discovered someone actually had traded in a 24-foot International box truck the day after our inquiry. The very next day, that truck was in a shop being prepared for the trip. This was the first of several miracles. God does work wonders. Incoming. The items continued to pour in. On Wednesday, November 7th, we began to use the stage of our elementary school multi-purpose room to store and sort all of the donated items. The second miracle, our elementary school was scheduled to be closed on Thursday and Friday. This miracle allowed us to use the multi-purpose room to pre-sort, box, and label items to be delivered to New York. The multi-purpose room transformed into a warehouse and a beehive of activity. Due to the high volume of items coming in, it quickly became obvious this was going to be bigger than Father Gould envisioned, and we were going to need at least one more truck. Thus, Grand Knight Roy rented a 16-foot truck to supplement the 24-foot truck. Then, to our amazement, several businesses put the word out of our effort, and the local paper, the Fauquier Times-Democrat, ran a front-page story regarding our effort to help Staten Island. Started as a trickle turned into a waterfall, and the items really began pouring in. Because of the amount of material already on site, G.K. Roy sent out an email seeking volunteers to begin working Thursday and provide a schedule for the rest of the week. It became clear we were going to need every volunteer we could get. The plan was for volunteers to begin sorting, boxing, labeling, and organizing stacks of boxes and items according to how they would be loaded onto the trucks. Thursday was our first full day, and we worked well into the night. On Thursday night, G.K. Roy sent out an update to our membership and again asked for even more volunteers. Friday, we had a tremendous turnout of volunteers, and an unbelievable amount of material was still coming in. Somewhat overwhelmed, our volunteers labored once again well into the night. Late Friday, it was determined we would need yet another truck. This time, we procured a 22-foot Hertz rental box truck. Facing the weekend. Saturday, November 10th, we had approximately 80 volunteers show up and go to work. G.K. Roy called them together in the multi-purpose room, thanked them for their volunteering, and informed them of his plan and how we were going to accomplish it. The plan for Saturday was to finish sorting, boxing, labeling, and loading the 3 trucks. This was done to fulfill Father Gould's desire to have a large box truck in front of our church for Saturday Vigil Mass and for all the Masses on Sunday. On Saturday, we received a third miracle. We had 80 hardworking people and lunchtime approaching. There was an immediate need to accomplish 2 things: keep the volunteers going and feed them. At approximately 11 a.m., our GK made a long-shot phone call to Brother Paul Brock, owner of Chick-fil-A franchise in Warrenton, and explained our dilemma. Brother Paul admitted it was the lunchtime crush. He would try to help. In less than an hour, we had hot, fresh chicken sandwiches on the table in front of our hungry volunteers. It was a heartwarming effort and a tremendous thank you to our volunteers for all their effort that day. The warehousing effort had to be completed and closed down, and the trucks moved to the front of the church before the 5 p.m. Mass on Saturday. It was truly amazing to watch these people work to accomplish this task. It was a joy to watch them because you could tell they all loved and believed in what they were doing. None would quit until the task of closing down the school operation was complete. These knights and their families were truly a blessing sent from heaven. When the operation at the school shut down, we loaded the 22-foot box truck to capacity by literally stuffing bags of clothes in all the little gaps left between items already loaded. The other 2 trucks were well over half full. Sunday, we set up the same sorting, boxing, labeling, and loading operation right in front of our church. As items were being delivered, we prepared them for loading onto the 2 partially filled trucks. So much came in, we thought we might need a 4th truck. By the time the last Sunday Mass was over, we had literally stuffed all 3 trucks with more than 20 tons of donated goods for delivery to Holy Rosary, St. Clair's, and the Catholic Charities Depot on Staten Island. While all of this was going on, Father Gould made contact with Father Robert Afferi, pastor, Holy Rosary Catholic Church on Staten Island, informing Father Afferi he, Father Gould, was coming with truckloads of goods on Monday to aid his people. Making contact with the Knights on Staten Island. In the meantime, worthy G.K. Roy knew we were going to require help to unload trucks once they reached Staten Island. Roy reached out to our district deputy, Felix Hernandez, to try and make contact with Knights Council on Staten Island. Worthy Grand Knight Roy knew this would be a great opportunity for the Knights at both ends to literally make this happen. In reality, our district warden and past Grand Knight Tim Whitney encouraged D.D. Felix to go through Virginia state officers who made contact with New York state officers. At that point, District Warden Tim was able to get in touch with Brother Bill Venturini and started making arrangements for Knights to be there when the trucks arrived. The plan was for the trucks to travel to Allentown, Pennsylvania for a night's rest and refueling before heading into Staten Island the next day. At 3 p.m., Father Gould blessed our small fleet of 3 trucks. When the fleet departed Warrenton, all were driven by Brother Knights. Brother Knight and Pastor Father Gould drove 1 truck. Brother Knight and Parochial Vicar Father Mark Moretti drove the 2nd truck. Brother Knight Steve Chipman and District Warden Tim Whitney drove the 3rd 24-foot white truck with the Knights of Columbus emblem proudly leading the way. 3 trucks were followed by a passenger van with several volunteers and a reporter for the Catholic Herald, while another van joined the fleet with 5 more volunteers. At this point, worthy G.K. Roy's task was complete, except for providing periodic updates to the membership as the mission progressed. G.K. Roy turned the reins over to District Warden Tim Whitney to complete the task and manage the remainder of the trip, and he in turn did a masterful job. Delivering the goods. Monday morning, after Mass at the hotel and a good hearty breakfast, the fleet refueled and set out for Staten Island. At about 1:30 p.m., the caravan pulled into Holy Rosary Church. District Warden Whitney had called ahead, and Knights were there ready to work. Holy Rosary didn't have a lot of room for goods, but they were extremely appreciative of our efforts, and we did unload some of the much-needed supplies for them. The caravan of 5 vehicles then moved on to St. Clair's. Another tremendous advantage of making contact with the Knights on Staten Island is that the caravan now had a guide, District Warden Conway Tang. Good folks at St. Clair's Parish were very happy to see us and the much-needed supplies, but they simply had no room to take any clothing. Once again, the Knights, along with our volunteers, were there to unload the trucks. When completed, St. Clair's was literally stuffed and overflowing outside their designated release center, being used to store and distribute supplies. Filling up at the Catholic Charities Depot, their next stop, District Warden Whitney and the Good Fathers were indeed wondering what they were going to do with all the donated clothing, as they were not going to bring them back to Virginia. A person at Catholic Charities suggested Salvation Army, as he had heard they would take donated clothing. On they went to the Salvation Army. Fortunately, the Salvation Army did take all the remaining clothes on the trucks, and even they struggled to find storage space for the many boxes and bags of donated goods. With empty trucks, it was finally time to head out of the city and journey home. After a stop for a great steak dinner outside New York, the fleet hit the highways and arrived at about 3:30 a.m. Tuesday morning. Mission complete. One cannot begin to express the blessings of this effort on our council, our church, and our community. Such an outpouring of help, the great support of local businesses, all the overwhelming generosity, combined with the faith that we could do it, was simply an amazing effort by so many, many people, together in unity, making it happen. Miracles before the trip even began. Brother Knights and their entire families laboring for hours upon hours, all making this act of charity possible. So many should be recognized for their efforts, both here in Virginia and in New York. These are but a few of the special people who made it happen. Reverend James R. Gould, pastor and chaplain of Council 5561. Reverend Mark E. Moretti, parochial vicar and friar of Assembly 2888. Worthy Grand Knight Roy Francis of Council 5561. Worthy Grand Knight Rich Malloy of Council 1662. Staten Island Vice President, Faithful Navigator, and past Grand Knight Bill Venturini of Staten Island Chapter, Knights of Columbus. Island District 37 Warden, past Grand Knight Conway Tang, Council 5915. Virginia District 20 District Deputy, past Grand Knight Felix Hernandez of Council 14755. Virginia District 20 Warden, past Grand Knight Tim Whitney of Council 5561. These gentlemen and brother knights are true knights in every sense of the word. With God's blessing, they made it all happen. We are so truly blessed. Brothers helping brothers, families helping families, people helping people.